The year is 1750. We are in London, the booming, soot-stained, restless capital of Great Britain, a city of perhaps 750,000 souls, and already the largest in Western Europe. Carriages clatter through the narrow streets. The Thames is jammed with merchant ships from every ocean of the world. And just east of the new dome of St. Paul's Cathedral, on a busy commercial street called Leadenhall, rises an elegant office building of brick and stone, fronted with classical pillars, behind whose doors sits one of the most powerful organizations in human history. It is not a kingdom, it is not a government, it is a private joint stock company. It owns its own army of tens of thousands of soldiers, soon to swell into the hundreds of thousands. It owns its own navy of armed ships. It has its own flag, its own coinage, its own diplomats, its own forts strung along the coasts of 2 oceans. And it is, at this moment, in the early stages of using these tools to seize political control of an entire subcontinent, ruling over tens of millions of people in India, in the name of a board of directors back in this building. It is the Honourable East India Company, and you are one of its directors. You are not a king, you are not a duke, you are something stranger, and, in the rising age of capitalism, far more modern. You are a shareholder king. Using advanced AI trained on the surviving records of East India House, the meticulous account books and correspondence of the company, the journals of merchants and sea captains, the political pamphlets that argued for and against the company's growing power, and the great country houses bought by its returning servants with the wealth they brought home, we have reconstructed a single day in the life of a director of the world's first true mega-corporation. Step into the offices on Leadenhall Street. But understand the central paradox at the heart of this man's life. He wears no crown and commands no army of his own personally, and yet in any given week, decisions made in the boardroom on the floor above will quietly raise armies, demolish kingdoms, and reshape the lives of millions of people on the far side of the world. The supreme luxury of your life is abstract power. Other elites in history have ridden into battle, sat on golden thrones, climbed the steps of temples, lifted swords and crowns above their heads in public ceremony. You do none of these things. You ride to work in a carriage. You sit at a polished mahogany table with a quill pen and a leather-bound ledger. You read letters and sign documents. And yet, by a stroke of your pen, you can dispatch a fleet, replace a governor, finance the overthrow of a local prince, fix the price of tea in Europe, or condemn an entire region to famine through a bad commercial decision. Your power is invisible. It is exercised through paper, contract, and meeting. It does not gleam. It accumulates quietly and ferociously in account books and shareholder lists. And it is, in 1750, just beginning to surpass the power of small kingdoms. You wake in a fine townhouse in one of the new fashionable squares of West London, perhaps in Bloomsbury, perhaps in Mayfair. Your home is a brick terraced house of 3 or 4 stories, elegant rather than monumental, designed in the restrained Georgian style, tall sash windows, a polished door with a brass knocker, an iron railing along the steps. Inside, the rooms are decorated with the taste of a man growing rich, silk wallpaper from China, Chinese porcelain on the mantelpiece, a clock made by one of London's celebrated watchmakers, polished mahogany furniture, oil portraits of yourself and your family on the walls, and on the floor, perhaps, a great patterned carpet from India. The very furnishings of your house are evidence of the trade that has built your fortune. Chinese tea, Indian fabrics, Caribbean sugar in the bowl by the breakfast tray, coffee from the Indies, all the world's wealth filtered through the warehouses of London and into your dining room. You are dressed by a manservant in the costume of an English gentleman of the day. A long buttoned waistcoat over a fine linen shirt with ruffled cuffs and a lace cravat at the throat. A coat of fine wool or velvet, cut full and decorated with silver buttons. Knee breeches, white stockings, and buckled leather shoes. Upon your head sits a powdered wig, white as snow, tied at the back with a black silk ribbon. The wig is a marker of class. Common men do not wear them. Lawyers, merchants, doctors, and gentlemen do. Your watch hangs at your waistcoat on a fine gold chain, a precision instrument made by a London craftsman whose name is known across Europe. Your snuff box is enamelled gold. Your walking stick has a silver head. You are not dressed as a great lord. You are dressed as something newer in the history of the world, a wealthy, learned, commercial man of the city. By mid-morning, you are driven in your carriage through the bustling streets toward Leadenhall, to the building known as East India House. Inside, the bustle is immense. Clerks in dark coats hurry through corridors carrying bundles of papers. Ships' captains wait in anterooms with charts and logbooks. Merchants and contractors arrive seeking business with the company. The directors of the company, of whom you are one of 24, are elected annually by the shareholders, the so-called proprietors, who hold stock in the company and vote in its general assemblies. Your authority comes not from God, not from royal blood, not from inheritance, but from votes cast in a room of investors. You answer to your fellow shareholders and to the laws of England. Above the boardroom, the company itself still nominally operates under royal charters granted by a long line of monarchs, beginning with the Great Charter of 1600 that gave it monopoly rights to all English trade with the Indies. But in practice, the directors run the show, and the British government, while watching, has not yet decided how much to interfere. The business before the board today is global. Letters have arrived by company ship from your 3 great presidencies in India, the trading and governing headquarters at Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. Reports from your factories, fortified trading posts along the Indian coast, list the prices of cotton calico, fine muslin, raw silk, indigo, saltpeter for gunpowder, and the increasingly fashionable Chinese tea bought up through a separate trade in Canton. Your servants in India, men who have gone out as ordinary writers, clerks, often in their late teens, are buying and selling on the company's behalf, paid modest salaries, but permitted to engage in private trade on the side. Many of them are accumulating private fortunes that dwarf their official wages. The lucky and ruthless among them return to London after a decade or two as so-called nabobs, men whose Indian wealth lets them buy country estates, seats in Parliament, and the polite contempt of older English aristocrats who whisper that the nabobs have made their money by means too dirty to mention. The board also receives reports from naval captains, from political agents, and from native bankers and brokers. Wars are coming. The political map of India is fragmenting as the old Mughal empire weakens, with regional rulers, ambitious governors, and rival European companies, particularly the French, jockeying for advantage. Your company has begun to raise local armies of Indian soldiers, called Sepoys, drilled in European style under British officers, paid in company silver. Within a few years, a company army will fight and win a battle that effectively hands control of the wealthy province of Bengal to the company, transforming it overnight from a trading enterprise into a territorial power, collecting taxes from millions of subjects. You, sitting in the boardroom in London, will read those dispatches and sign off on the decisions that brought it about, with no more drama than a businessman approving a quarterly budget. The flow of wealth is staggering. Each year, the company sends out heavily armed merchant ships, the famous East Indiamen, carrying silver coin and a few European goods, to be exchanged in Asian ports for cargoes of Indian textiles, Chinese tea, porcelain, spices, and other luxuries. The voyage out and back takes the better part of 2 years. The risks are enormous. Storms, shipwrecks, French warships, pirates, and disease take a steady toll. But the rewards are enormous as well. A successful ship returns laden with goods worth many times its initial outfitting, and the company's storehouses by the Thames are stuffed with bales of cotton, chests of tea, and crates of porcelain awaiting auction. The auctions themselves are great commercial events, attended by wholesalers from across Britain and Europe, with millions of pounds changing hands. Through this trade, the company has done more than enrich itself. It has transformed everyday life in Britain. Tea has become a national drink, brewed in cottages and palaces alike. Indian cottons have changed how ordinary people dress. Chinese porcelain has filled even modest households with cups that, a century earlier, would have been treasures of kings. You, as a director, are not merely making money. You are reshaping the material culture of an entire continent. Your family is part of the strategy. Like other men of new money in this age, you marry advantageously into another mercantile family, into the gentry, sometimes, with enough Indian wealth, into the lower nobility. Your sons are groomed for the company itself. A position as a company writer in Madras or Calcutta, secured through the patronage of a director such as yourself, can launch a young man toward enormous wealth. Daughters of company servants and directors are sometimes sent out to India as the so-called fishing fleet, eligible women seeking husbands in the European communities at the presidencies, where suitable women are scarce. Family connections, patronage, and the proper placement of cousins and nephews in company posts are as central to your wealth strategy as any commercial decision. In the afternoon, you leave East India House and make your way through the city. You may stop at a coffee house along the way, perhaps the famous Jerusalem Coffee House or another haunt of merchants and traders, where shipping news is shared, marine insurance is arranged, and political gossip flows freely. Coffee houses in 1750 London are the unofficial nerve centres of British commerce, and at one of them, men dealing in marine insurance are slowly developing the institution that will become the great market called Lloyd's. You may then walk to the Royal Exchange, the magnificent open courtyard surrounded by colonnades, where merchants from every nation gather to do business under specific arches reserved for trade with different parts of the world. The Italians here, the Spanish there, the men of the East India trade in their own corner. Your world is the new world of the city, of news, of credit, of the ledger, of the rumour, of the tip that arrives 20 minutes before anyone else hears it. As evening falls, you return home for dinner. The dining room is candlelit, the table set with Chinese porcelain, sparkling cut glass from the New English glassworks, polished silver and starched white linen. The food is rich and elaborate in the fashion of the age. Dishes of roasted meats, savoury pies, jellies, sweetbreads, soups and pastries, accompanied by claret from Bordeaux, Madeira wine, port from Portugal, and after the meal, the new craze of fine French brandy. Tea will be served afterward, properly brewed, in elegant porcelain cups without handles, in the manner the English are still learning from Chinese custom, perhaps already with a splash of milk and a lump of expensive Caribbean sugar. The guests around your table are bankers and merchants, ship owners and members of parliament, a clergyman or two, perhaps an Indian returned nabob, freshly arrived with bewildering manners and even more bewildering wealth. The conversation drifts from the price of cotton to the latest news from Bengal, from political pamphlets to the prospects of the company's stock, from gossip about the royal court to the merits of the new German-born King George II. After dinner, the ladies withdraw. The men remain for port tobacco and the more confidential talk of business and politics. Some of the most consequential decisions of the British Empire in this age are made not in Parliament, but over decanters in dining rooms, exactly like yours. Late at night, you sit in your study, the fire burning low, a letter half written on the desk before you. Your wealth is staggering by the standards of any previous century. You command, by your single signature, more practical power than most of the kings whose ancestors built England's old castles. You are part of a small group of men who, between them, are about to politically conquer a subcontinent, almost as a side effect of doing business. And yet, your name is hardly known outside London, and you wear no robe of state, no jewel of office. Your work is invisible. Your power is paper. Your immortality, if it comes at all, will have to be of an entirely new kind. For when you die, your funeral will be a sober Anglican affair, a service in a London church, a procession of black-clad mourners, a hearse drawn by black-plumed horses, a burial in a fashionable churchyard, or perhaps a parish church near your country estate. There may be a marble memorial tablet on the wall of a church inscribed in Latin, listing your offices, your virtues, and your beloved family. But your true monument will be something different. It will be a country house, perhaps a great new estate purchased and rebuilt in fashionable style with Indian or Eastern wealth, set in a landscaped park designed by one of the celebrated new landscape architects of England, dotted with classical temples and lakes. Within its walls will hang oil portraits of you and your descendants, and Chinese porcelain bought from company auctions, and Indian textiles and souvenirs from the wider world. Your sons may buy seats in Parliament. Your grandchildren may marry into the old nobility, blurring with each generation the line between commerce and aristocracy. Your fortune, woven into estates, securities, and shares, will outlast you and become part of the new British ruling class. The company itself, in the centuries to come, will grow far larger and then, slowly, be brought under state control, until finally its territories pass directly into the hands of the British Crown, and India itself becomes the jewel of an empire whose foundations you helped, very quietly, to lay. That was a glimpse into the life of an East India Company director in 1750. A life lived in counting houses, boardrooms, and elegant dining rooms, in a London at the dawn of a new kind of power. The power of the joint stock corporation, backed by armies, ships, and global markets. They were neither kings nor warriors. They were merchants who, almost without anyone quite intending it, accumulated the means of a state, raised armies, signed treaties, deposed rulers, and built fortunes that rivaled the wealth of nations. In the centuries to come, their company would be remembered for many things, for tea and porcelain and Indian textiles in every English home, for the conquest of India, for famines, wars, and the long, complicated history of the British Empire, for pioneering the very idea that a private corporation could behave like a sovereign power. The company itself would eventually be dissolved, its empire absorbed by the crown, its name fading into history. But its descendants are everywhere. Every great modern corporation that operates across borders, employs private security, lobbies governments, and shapes the daily lives of millions, walks in a path first cleared by the quiet, paperwork-driven, world-changing men who once met in a building on Leadenhall Street to decide, between sips of tea, the fate of the world.